What's up guys, Nathan here. With Path of Exile's Incursion League just around the corner, I figured I'd give the old League Starter video a shot. For those of you who don't know what a League Starter is, it's basically a build that requires little to no currency to function, levels smoothly, and scales well enough to let you farm endgame content until you're ready to fund something more expensive. Today, I'll be showcasing 3 tried and true builds that I've played and can personally attest to how well they work, and then I'll show you 3 slightly spicier builds that aren't quite as tested, but should play super nicely based on the upcoming balance changes. I'll be linking the Path of Building pastebins, complete with budget and expensive gear options, in the description below. I will also include any forum guides that exist for identical or extremely similar builds. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. The first build is the fantastic Ngahamu's Flame Cyclone Chieftan. This build is fun, budget, flexible to gear, and is all around very powerful for how cheap it is. The gist of it is to take advantage of the natural synergy between the Ngahamu's Flame two-handed axe and the Chieftan Ascendancy to achieve a full fire conversion, then doing tons of damage by using gem setups to support both Cyclone and Molten Burst. With minimal investment, the build can clear up through red maps and is a pretty decent bosser. Plus, if you want to farm Uberlab, Chieftan's regen makes that a breeze too. There honestly aren't a ton of downsides to this build. You can't do Elemental Reflect or no leech maps, and no regen maps will suck. Probably the worst aspect of this build is that a more expensive Scion or Raider would be faster and probably do more damage, but this is way cheaper. The next build is the GC Miner's hipster cousin, the Miner Saboteur. I played this build to level 85 in the Flashback League, and I was blown away by just how strong it was with nothing but a couple of crappy spell damage wands and a tabula. The damage is great, the visuals are satisfying, and you can get surprisingly tanky thanks to a combination of acrobatics, mind over matter, and the Saboteur's Born in the Shadows Ascendancy node. Additionally, with the upcoming buffs to Arc, this build is looking like it's going to get even more powerful. The downside of this build is you can't run no regen maps, and bossing doesn't start to feel great until you invest in a couple of Shimmeron wands. But those aren't terrible to farm and shouldn't even cost too much after the league's economy settles in. I'll also be posting the Assassin and Tremor Rod variations of this build below, so feel free to check them all out and see what looks the most fun to you. The last build I can personally recommend, especially to newer players, is the simple but effective Essence Drain Trickster. I played 2 variations of this build this league, and both performed excellently. The first was the squishy but cheap as hell tabula, and the second was the more expensive Venomous Shroud with a crafted aspect of the Spider Helm. Unfortunately, the latter is going away next league, but you can still get great results with Tabula, Cloak of Defiance, or Death's Oath variations. The general pros of this build are its fast and satisfying clear, extremely safe playstyle, and flexible gearing options. As for the cons, there really is only one. The single target is pretty lackluster. You can still kill most bosses in the game, but that's mainly because of how safe the fire and forget nature of Essence Drain is. It will just take a while. What's up guys, I'm here, I'm back. I just wanted to sort of do this section of the video in more of like the lab, the experimental stage, not only to reflect the more experimental quality of these builds, but also because I don't really have the ability to make these builds exactly how they're going to be in 3.3 and then test them in like red maps or whatever like I was doing for my first 3 builds. So let's just jump in here. Let's talk about the Fireball build. Let's get that one out of the way. The thing about the Fireball build for me is I'm actually not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to spellcasters. So this was kind of getting outside my box, but also at the same time, Fireball's not exactly a super difficult skill to build around. So let's talk about a few things involving the build. First of all, I did build to level 93 with 2 passive points. For the bandits, you can go less. Honestly, there's a lot of extra stuff that I just sort of filled in, like these little explosive impact nodes, these fire nodes over here. DPS, as you can see, 157k, and then 16k Ignite DPS. And things to note about that, first of all, that does not take into account all the massive buffs and changes that went into not only Ignite, but Fireball. So, like I put here in the notes, it's probably going to be double that. At the very least, maybe triple. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and do the math, but I do know it's going to be a lot better than that, especially the Ignite DPS. That's the big one. So, staff I picked up. I want to do a +3 fire staff. Super expensive. This is probably not what you're going to use, but it's definitely something you should shoot for crafting at some point. I used a Kaum's Heart, little fire damage, give you all the health you'll need, all the gloves. All of these are just like super high statted rares I just made here. Budget gear, as you can see, the total DPS drops down quite a bit, but the Ignite DPS stays about the same, which is going to be really good because that's going to be what's going to scale really high with all the changes that are coming in. You're going to throw a Fireball into a pack and it's just going to proliferate, and you're going to get like everything is going to start burning in that general area. I'm not very good at translating this little number right here, AoE radius or proliferation radius, into like what it actually is on screen, but the numbers are big, so you should be able to just toss a Fireball and watch things melt, and then it will explode, and the area will be much bigger when this build is built correctly. But it's kind of fun to lob fireballs. Cast speed's also getting better too. There's just like so many things about this build that are going to be 20 million times better on live. I don't even have like any fire damage nodes. I have freaking lightning damage nodes, and I'm getting all my damage from Wrath right now. Let's see what my tooltip is. Oof, the thick 523 tooltip. So like if this was the regular build, like those guys all would have died. I wouldn't have had to cast this ability 3 times. These next 2 builds I am super happy with, because I personally have played a lot of melee builds in the past, so I feel a lot more comfortable making these kind of builds. I know exactly what kind of no-brainer nodes you're supposed to take when you're pathing around Duelist and Juggernaut and Shadow to a lesser extent. It is a double strike, or Vaal double strike is actually the important bit, Slayer. And what you're going to want to do is you'll go in, you'll kill a pack with double striking and melee splashing, you'll get some souls, and then you'll eventually be able to cast Vaal double strike, and then you'll have a couple of guys running around, and that'll be super fun. I've seen clips, and I'll probably use some right now, of Ziggy showing off the like 4 double strike mirrors at once, just going ham on a boss. Let's take a look here at my gear. This is the chase gear. Obviously a disfavor, not exactly a league starter budget, but it's there. Kaum's Heart, 2-handers love the life, 7,800 life, that's how you hit that. I am running Hemophilia because I have a soft spot for Bleed Explosions, and I still wanted to do Slayer rather than Gladiator, so that'll just help with your clear a little bit, and it also gives you a little bit more bleeding damage, which is nice. I'm sure you remember I love Impressence. It's like one of my favorite amulets. It's like one of my favorite pieces of gear. I love this item, actually way more than it deserves. So yeah, you can run Vulnerability for free, nicely rolled steel rings, Eteri's Promise, Lion's Roar, Taste of Hate. These are the big DPS flasks. And yeah, just a couple of GGG jewels here, or GG jewels, whatever. I mean, I don't know what the math is, but I have to imagine this thing is easily going to be hitting like 500k against bleeding enemies. And then, of course, you've scaled bleed, so Crimson, they're going to be bleeding the hell out of themselves. They're going to be taking like 60k, probably like 80k or something, bleed DPS 2 after the increased damage against bleeding enemies. And there's going to be 4 mirrors of you going ham. So not 100% sure what the math is. I think the mirrors will do slightly reduced damage compared to your main self, but this is easily going to be a 1 million DPS build, and that's pretty amazing with the chase gear. Let's take a look at the budget gear. Budget gear obviously goes down quite a bit, but this is very cheap. You're going to be able to, like, first day of the league, you're going to have all of these items. Third day of the league, we'll have upgraded half of these items. Hesmanas, as somebody once told me in game, who I sold a 6-link of this to, this is an honest axe. It gets the job done. Definitely something you'll want to look to upgrade at some point. I really like Kitava's Feast. That way you can run Bane of Legends over Melee Splash, so that could be your sort of in-between upgrade. If you're jumping from Hesmanas to Disfavor, you could go get Kitava's in the middle. And I didn't even include any of the DPS flasks. So you just get yourself like a Lion's Roar. Let's go here. Bam. You're almost at 200k. Give yourself a Promise. Bam, you are at 200k. So let's get a little bit of gameplay in here. As you can see, you can see why I did not pass one of my classes last semester. I'm not using regular. Wait, this is Lacerate. Oh no, this is double strike. I'm dumb. I'm not using regular double strike, so you are going to have to watch me clear a little bit with Sunder here. Yeah. Do things. Don't make me look bad. Look, okay. See, that's something. So yeah, it's hard to demonstrate because it's going to be way, way better on release. But this build's going to be fun, and this build's going to be unique. That much I can promise you compared to anything else you've played before. So let's jump in to our last build here. This one also was a very high contender for League start for me because I love Gladiators so much. Basically, Bleed Explosions are like all I need in life. So it is a Lacerate, new Lacerate, Bleed Explosion Gladiator. Now I'm using Creighton here, which probably is a mistake because I'm unbelievably close to max level, which you never want to be at when you're planning builds. But this is a On's Might crit build, 25% more damage against bleeding enemies. That's huge. So yeah, another 25% multiplier in this because you're going to be... Hey, Sprout, what do you want? A couple more things. The AoE was buffed quite a bit. I think it's like +9 at max level, like plus, yeah, at level 20. So I don't really know, like I can't really visualize how much that is, but it's definitely going to be bigger than it was. So I just put stupidly big AoE here to make myself feel good about my choice in building around Lacerate. Another interesting choice I made is I built around Deadly Ailments for more bleed damage. Don't know if that's correct. It probably isn't. But that gem did just get buffed, so you only lose 10% damage in favor of a shit ton more bleed damage. Let's segue into the gear really quick. 2 On's Mights, these are perfectly rolled. These are going to be slightly expensive on the first day of the league, even the average rolled ones. So you're going to probably have to settle for poorly rolled ones or wait a little bit, but these are going to be key in the build. All of these are absurdly well rolled rares. These diamond rings would be worth... I mean, all of these are like mirror tier, but I'm way overcapped on resist, 245% overcapped on resist, so you really do not need this much. But let's take a look at our budget gear, because this shit is really expensive, and you will not have it, probably at any point during the league, but you might. Okay, so this is a real budget. We're using a tab. We got a Carnage Heart instead of a Crit Amulet. We have 2, these are more reasonably rolled On's Mights. I think these are all like just average. I don't know, but you definitely can do a little better than these. That should be your priority. You want to get into some nice On's Mights if possible. But yeah, it goes a little lower, but still 200k. 200k DPS with no DPS flasks. 5k bleed DPS. This build has a lot going for it. And this is 5,000 life. Again, you don't have to level up this high. You can drop all those accuracy nodes. So you'll probably be 4k life while you're mapping realistically. But the gameplay will basically be not leap slam. You can leap slam or you can whirling blades. You can't shield charge because you're dual wielding. And then you just sort of hop there. And then the AoE will be so big you will probably be able to just press it. And I did it 3 times there, but you'll probably be able to click it once from like here. Like that whole pack would probably have been dead. And yeah, highly recommend Gore Herald for any Bleed Explosion build, especially this one. If you guys have made it this far into the video, I want to thank you for hanging out with me for the past probably 10 minutes. I know this has been a long one, but I do want to do a quick plug. On Friday at 3 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to be streaming the new league. I don't know how long I'm going to go. I can't really do 24 hours. That's just not something my body is attuned to since I work at like 7 a.m. 4 days a week. But I am going to try to at least get all the way through Act 5. I might try to push to Act 10. I'm going to try to do mapping the day after, so Saturday, whenever I wake up then. I'm going to be here, league start. It's going to be super exciting. I'm going to try out at least 1 or 2 of these builds. Anyway, this has been Nathan. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.